Hi, this is Dave Zanotti, and I am very happy to bring with the rest of our team today's broadcast to you regarding a hero, an American hero that we got to walk with and talk with and work with and live with, Dr. Sterling Glover. Rob, you remember the first time you met Dr. Glover?
I do. It was in the boardroom of our old offices on Alameda. And while he wasn't tall in stature, man, I felt like I was in the room with a giant.
Yeah. Dr. Sterling Glover is someone who was an influencer long before the word came to be. And he was an influencer because this is a man who was a true, godly, honest, sincere Christian and a pastor. Dr. Glover was a guy who was so in tune with the desire to walk with Jesus that when he prayed, everybody stopped and listened. And when he wasn't praying, oftentimes he'd just be walking around the office and singing hymns just a little bit out loud. You remember that?
He would have that hum just a little bit under his breath, but loud enough for everyone to hear, and you would know what he was doing. And the thing about him, when he sat with us around the table, which he did every Monday, he joined us for staff and for prayer. And you knew he cared about each of us around the table too, because he would ask questions. And he didn't he never asked a question to fill time. Every question he asked was an intentional question. And when Alan and I got to spend some time with him at his house, it was just, we got to ask some questions, and boy, did we get some answers.
Dr. Glover is our trustee in perpetuity. He passed several years ago, but he's never passed from our memory, and we don't ever want his voice to disappear from the public square because he, from the beginning of the American Policy Roundtable, believed in this mission, identified with us. Dr. Glover was a serious mover and shaker in the Midwest in regards to the entire civil rights movement. You're going to hear some of that story. Let's put it this way. When Martin Luther King Jr. would come to town, Sterling Glover was one of the people that was on his call list. And when Sterling Glover would write a letter or a note to Martin Luther King Jr., he got a response. This man was a big part of the ethos, of the ethic, of the biblical mandate of the equality of all people. And we learned so much from him. We're so grateful for him. And so today we pay tribute to him as we try to do at least once a year so that his voice, his connections with Martin Luther King Jr., his bigger vision for how God views humanity through the person of Jesus Christ will be remembered. So please enjoy the opportunity to listen to one of our dearest friends on to his reward, Dr. Sterling A. Glover.
Nice to have you guys. I mean.
Well, we appreciate your hospitality and welcoming us into your home. Thank you.
Yeah, why not?
There's a lot of memories hanging on the walls and sitting on the shelves in this room, huh?
Indeed so. Yeah. Yes, the grandkids put that together several years ago, and it stays there, okay? And it's nice to see how they have grown when they come in here sometime, okay? Mm-hmm. When I come in off the street, I flop down here myself, and then I go to the kitchen and get something to eat, okay? Then what's next?
There was one framed photo in the room at Dr. Glover's house that was on the television, sitting out that we did notice, and we knew the story behind.
Yeah, we were there.
We were there the day it was taken.
Yeah.
And it was of Dr. Glover and Anna Welch from our staff.
Yeah.
And her husband, Matt Welch.
Yeah. Dr. Glover performed their ceremony.
He did. He's so such a longtime friend, such a long time caring person that he was honored to perform that ceremony for Matt and Anna. We were all there.
Yeah.
And it was just a blessing to be there and be a part of.
Well, it was cool. Of all the weddings that Dr. Glover's probably performed in his life, he's got Matt and Anna's picture sitting right there in his living room.
It's prominent. He's going to see it every day.
Yeah.
And we know how strongly he feels and loves Matt and Anna.
Yeah, it was very cool.
We mentioned pictures on his wall, but there was a poster on his wall as well. And
yes,
you being the music aficionado of the group, you were drawn to that poster.
Yeah, I totally was. Well, first of all, it was a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame poster, and it looked like one of the original ones, old school. And I thought, that's interesting. You wouldn't expect that Dr. Glover in his living room has a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame poster on the wall. But
No,
he does.
He does.
But there's a story behind why he does.
He was instrumental in help bringing the Rock Hall of Fame to Cleveland.
Yeah. I did not know that.
He sat on the board of the Port Authority. Mm-hmm. And the Rock Hall was established, I believe, in the early 80s as a place where they'd have a Hall of Fame and everything. And then in the late 80s, they were trying to decide where the hall would be built, where it would be permanently.
Right.
And that's when a decision was made that Cleveland would be the location and the site of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And with Dr. Glover sitting on the Port Authority board, obviously there were decisions to be made, and he was involved in that process of help bringing the Rock Hall to the North Shore of Cleveland.
Yeah, so we mentioned Dr. Glover being at the ribbon cutting ceremony of the Public Square radio broadcast. He was at a bigger, let's say, not more important, but a bigger ribbon cutting ceremony in the city of Cleveland a few short years later, and that was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he tells a bit of his experience there.
And as he shares this story, he's going to share a personal aspect of it. We wanted to pick his brain and dig in and hear the real stories. And some of them may not be easy to hear, and they especially weren't easy to experience.
I was with the rock and roll, okay? So I was down there, okay, with, okay, the Port Authority, all right? And this picture here is a reminder. I was appointed by the mayor, okay, to sit on the board. I started sitting on the board, and I finally became in charge of that board. All right? Make a long story short, okay, we were able to get the place built on port property. All right? And the day of the inaugural services, I went to the ceremony, of course. You couldn't get in the place. Right? And the person on the door escorted me to the front. I sat in the middle aisle, the second row, first seat. Never will forget it. And they gave me my program. I'm sitting there reading my program. The gentleman came in from the opposite aisle and came down right where I was sitting. But he put his briefcase in the chair next to me. And he sat in the third seat. He looked at me, I looked at him. So finally he says to me, "Who do you work for?" In that tone of voice. As if to say, you have no business to be sitting here. This belongs to people like us who are investors and whatnot. Who do you work for? I looked at him. I said, "I tell you who I work for. I work for the carpenter of Nazareth, and he pays very well." So, as the program progressed, when they made the announcement that because of my leadership and the fact that we had guaranteed every one of those bonds, just in case the Rock and Roll Corporation could not make it, we were there to back it up. When they read that history, the people in the audience just cheered and cheered and cheered and cheered. And he sat there and he was hurt. He didn't say goodbye. He got out of there. Now I use that. Okay, that becomes very meaningful to me. All right, that if we are granted talents by God, we are supposed to make sure that He gets some benefit out of what you're doing. I call that glory. I don't go to church to give God glory. I give glory to God how I behave myself and how I treat people and how I make a way for folk who can't make a way for themselves. That's my little story.
I've been honored to sit next to this man for a better part of a decade, every Monday morning in our staff Bible studies. And anytime I'm in the room with him, and you notice this as well, he's always singing, always under his breath.
He's got that hum going, yep.
Just audible enough.
The old hymns.
You know it's hymns. He's constantly singing hymns. And honestly, it makes me think of scripture verses that talk about singing. Psalm 104:33 is one of those, and it says, I will sing to the Lord as long as I live. And that's what Dr. Glover's doing.
He's singing.
It says, I will sing praise to my God while I have being. And Dr. Glover is a living, walking example of that to this day.
Indeed, he is. Alan and Rob will continue their visit with Dr. Sterling Glover on today's edition of The Public Square. Don't miss it in just a moment. We're found online at thepublicsquare.com.
We'll be right back for more on The Public Square. Spreading the light of liberty across the land. Now back to The Public Square.
Welcome back to The Public Square. It's pure joy to hear again from Dr. Sterling Glover on the program today as Alan Duncan and Rob Walgate paid him a visit in his home. Here's Alan.
I hope that this program is going to be one that people can come back to year after year, because this is a program about history, American history. And that's what we do here at the Public Square and at the American Policy Roundtable. And Dr. Glover was a man who lived that history. And that's one of the reasons that we wanted to go and sit down with him. Now, when we recorded this program, it was 2015. And people looking back on 2015, 2014, the surrounding years, may remember them as some racially charged times. And that's one of the reasons that we wanted to go and sit down with one of our most trusted friends and talk to him about what were your experiences like at some very racially charged times in history as well. So we talk about the pictures on the wall. There was another picture on Dr. Glover's wall. It was a picture of his son standing next to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
That little picture you see there is the guy with the jacket on standing next to Martin Luther King. Okay? When they had a celebration to come up down on the job about that, okay, he said, Martin Luther King came to Cleveland and he preached at my daddy's church once or twice, and they worked together. Oh, no, that didn't happen. He said, oh, yes, it did. He said, I'll show you. So he came home, he got that picture and took it to him and showed it to him. And he read the little memento that's under the bottom. That's why this room has memories in it.
So we know Dr. Glover has the connection with Martin Luther King Jr. Mm-hmm. And I knew that. And I can remember not long ago thinking, you know, I'm going to Google their names together and see what comes up. Maybe an old newspaper article, maybe something. There has to be something there.
Well, you told him when he sat down, you told him you Googled his name. And I think he was like, wait, what'd you do? Yeah. I think he was a little bit offended. I don't know if he thought you cussed at him or something.
Yeah.
You Googled me?
Yeah, I did. And I found something very, very interesting. And it kind of blew my mind.
Yeah.
Because what it is a letter that Dr. Glover sent in the 60s to Martin Luther King Jr. And this letter is archived. It's at the King Center. You can look online and see a Keller copy of this letter that was sent on May 24th, 1967.
And it's marked in red ink.
Important. It says important. So obviously someone received this in Dr. King's office, wrote important on it, but it was mailed on 5/24, May 24th, and it says important in red, and then it says called on 5/26.
Yes. So to get from Cleveland to Atlanta as a letter
in 1967,
they probably called him back the moment they received this letter.
And it's not a letter that's, hey, how you doing? I hope all is well.
No, it's not. It's actually a letter where Dr. Glover is challenging something that Dr. King did, but we'll let him explain that.
We've got a letter we wanted to hand over to you and see if you remember this particular letter.
Oh, yeah. The United Pastors. Yes, sir. Henry Payton, yes. Isn't that something? Yeah, right. It pays to tell the truth, doesn't it?
It's just amazing that that's preserved.
Yeah. And this guy, Eddie Osborne, and I, we were good friends. Yeah, because he was a cousin to Martin Luther King.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
If you wouldn't mind reading this letter, I think might be interesting to have that in your voice, if you wouldn't mind doing that. I think it'd be interesting.
Dr. Martin Luther King, care of Southern Christian Leadership Conference, 334 Auburn Avenue Northeast, Atlanta, Georgia. Dear Dr. King, we are surprised at the announcement made in the Cleveland Press on Tuesday, May 23rd, 1967, by your Eddie Osborne regarding the planned summer conference to be held with members of the United Pastors Association, civil rights leaders, and other interested persons. It is the feeling of the United Pastors Association that no release should be given to the press or meetings held with special groups in town without prior knowledge and approval of the coordinating committee of the United Pastors Association. We feel this to be significant if we are to have in the future a workable relationship between the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and our group. We would like to hear from you immediately on this issue, since, as you realize, we have undertaken a tremendous effort to get the cooperation of all people of goodwill under the umbrella of the United Pastors Association. Sincerely yours, United Pastors Association Action Committee, Reverend Sterling E. Glover and the Reverend Henry Payton.
Can you talk to us about the work you were doing on the civil rights movement, during the civil rights movement, was strategic, and you wanted to make sure that he understood the strategy that needed to take place in Cleveland, Ohio, because you were on the ground here.
So by being on the ground, I knew the necessities, okay, that were needed, okay, for the work that was going on the ground, okay, that we were not just going to be a part of an idea that was going global just to have our names in the paper. That didn't mean that to me, okay? And I thought that when we developed our committees, that it would be people on those committees who themselves had an idea and an interest. They did not just want to be seen for a photo op, okay? And that's what goes on so much in things, okay? So that you can have your picture taken with this top dancer, you know. Yeah, for what? You know, that's crazy. All right? But we didn't have an argument, he and I. He understood. Why did he understand? His father, before him, was a thriving pastor in Atlanta. All right? Very strong political force there. Okay, so he knew which way the wind was blowing. Okay, and so after that, every time he would come this way, okay, somebody would have him to be a part of a service, or we'd get together and throw a service together. Okay, well, we got 15 pastors. You send 20, you send 20, you send 20, you send 20. We can always have a crowd. Okay, and that's how we did it.
I'm going to ask now an uncomfortable or maybe even awkward question. When those things happen, were there white people in the room, or did any white people want to be in the room with you guys?
Mostly a news reporter, if anybody, no one else was. Okay? And for me, that's the reason why, okay, that we are still fighting some of the problems that we still have. Okay? And for some reason, people believe that because their color is different, it makes them greater. Okay, I have articles, okay, where they found out that if they wanted to maintain a job, then they would have to make sure that they did not form a relationship with us, because we were different. Okay? And you've got another generation that will say, look, now we're all people. We all breathe alike. We all sleep alike. And I guess we die alike. I know one thing, everybody smells the same when he dies. I know that much from being a mortician myself. I know what it takes.
Can you talk to us a bit about some of maybe the police brutality that we're seeing coming out in the news this past year? How do we rightly discern what's going on? What from your perspective is happening? What can we do? Just maybe talk about that a little bit, if you don't mind.
There's nothing beats togetherness. Right? I think the way the laws are structured, that people will get away with what they can get away with. We're tired of putting thugs in office to take the place of thugs who are already in office. I'm talking about going from the mayor right straight on up to the senators and those in the House. They ain't no but thugs up there. Basically. Is there hope? Yes. Yeah, there is hope, I believe. Okay? But it's not going to be it's not going to be easy, not at all. Okay? Why? The scripture says, when I would do good, evil is what? Is always present. So there's always that fight within ourselves. Okay? So we have to have a place where we can open up and say, this is the problem. How did you feel about it? All the good kind of stuff.
One of the memories, and it's not such a happy, joyous memory, it was the passing of his wife, his lovely wife, Dee. And I remember a fall Saturday morning in Cleveland. All of us from the Round Table, the team from the Round Table, went down to the service at Emmanuel Baptist Church. And the church was packed on that Saturday morning. Mm-hmm. You were there, Alan. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Glover has always been so respectful and towards us in the work we do. And that morning, two members of our team, Anna Welch and Dave Zanotti, were asked by Dr. Glover to come and to share and to speak. And there wasn't a long list of people that went up and shared that morning. And that was an honor, and it shows the respect and the friendship that is mutual in our relationship. And the other thing I remember from that Saturday morning is the last person to talk. I wasn't expecting Dr. Glover to get up on that Saturday morning and give a sermon. And I would say he hit the ball out of the park, but that'd be an understatement on what he shared that morning. And I remember leaving, and me and my wife Rachel and talking, and I looked at her and I said, what a special man of God.
One of the reasons that was such an honor for us to be invited to that funeral, to that ceremony, for members of our team to be a part of the ceremony, is because we've heard a little bit of Dr. Glover's backstory. We know where he's come from. We know some things that have happened to him and to his family that frankly might make it difficult to invite some white people to come into his church, much less to his wife's funeral.
I remember the morning he gave that mini sermon around our board table. I will never forget those words. We have an African-American pastor looking around the table at a bunch of, for lack of a better term, white people. And he talked about his disdain. He talked about hating. Mm-hmm. And he talked about our relationship and growing together. And he talked about moving from hate to dislike, to like, to love.
Yeah.
Knowing where the man has come from, knowing the things he's seen, that's not an easy progression.
Yeah. Well, people might think hate is a strong word to describe his previous feelings towards white people, but you're probably not going to think that's a strong word when you hear about some of the things that happened to his family.
Eager to find out why my daddy, as a kid, grew up on 70 to 100 acres of land, which was owned. They worked to own it. My grandmother and my grandfather. They wouldn't let her join the Farmers Bureau because she was the wrong color. But they could not match the quality of produce coming off of her land because she was always talking about the man upstairs. That she kept her mind attracted to what's going on up there, affecting what's happening down there. So you don't plant Okay? Well, the book says you plant it now because, no, you're not going to plant it. You're going to plant it because the moon is going to be over in this house this time. And the sun's going to be over yonder. That's the way she engineered that process. And they reared seven kids. My granddaddy died because of heart trouble. Okay? And a committee of farmers came, okay, and said they wanted to buy property. Okay? She said, it's not for sale. Well, who's going to take care of this property? She said, me and my boys. They left. They pulled that trick 2 times. The 3rd time, they came. She said, I told you it's not for sale. She said, and we don't owe anything on it. It's clear property. We've worked hard. We own this. She fixed the breakfast for the boys. A big old stove, and then pushed it to the back of the stove to stay warm for the afternoon meal. My daddy and his brothers had gone to church, which was down the corner, make a left-hand turn, I can see it, and you go to the little church, little country church. They went to Sunday school. While they were in Sunday school, she got dressed and she went to the edge of the road so she could make a turn to go to the church house. Bang, 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 boom, killed her dead. And people saw that. They went running up to the church. And they ran in and just broke up the little meeting in there and said, Sis Margaret been killed. They killed her. And when they said that, Daddy and his brothers jumped up, and everybody wore a gun. If you went to church, you got a gun with you. That was your protection. Because that white man was not going to give you justice. He either had to kill you or you kill him. And we say that God created us all? Well, it's a hard story. But that's who I am. Jimmy Carter's people lived just across the road from the store. Jimmy Carter's people. And Jimmy Carter's people got together with a guy by the name of Martin who owned the grocery store. He said, we better get those Glovers out of town because it's going to be a massacre down here. They said, and all of us who knew that family said they didn't bother anybody. But don't bother one of them because you got them to fight. So Martin and Carter's people put up the money, bought the tickets, okay, to send my daddy and his 6 other brothers, okay, to New Jersey, because they had friends up there because of the rubber manufacturing company up there, okay. But there was one little white boy named Thomas Harvey. And he was a friend with them. And he didn't want them to leave him down there. Do you not know he came with them? And all those boys got a job at the same manufacturing company. They all live within gunshot of each other's house there in Passaic, New Jersey. Tom right with them all.
When it comes to that issue of race relations, I heard you say, this sticks in my mind vividly. I remember you saying to learn to go from hate to dislike to like to love.
That's correct. Exactly right. It's a discipline, okay? That's the only person that doesn't have that type of discipline is he who, it says in that Bible, that God is love, right? He doesn't have to run through all of the steps, okay, like we have to do, okay? And what makes it difficult is after you have experienced it yourself, okay, right? And that's was my main problem, okay? And I know being a part of the round table has helped me to think a little differently, okay? This is true, you know.
We're not done with this conversation. There's more to come on today's edition of The Public Square with Dr. Sterling Glover. We'll continue in a moment. To listen again or to pass the link along to others for listening, go to thepublicsquare.com.
You and I are young dads, relatively young dads.
Define young. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, I'm just saying. And I feel like any chance we get to talk to a more experienced dad, we try to take it and try to hopefully learn something. You and I, a year ago, got a chance to go sit down and interview Ted Ginn Sr., the coach at Glenville High School, and talk to him about fatherhood.
Yeah, we did a radio show on faith, fatherhood, and football.
In the same sense that we wanted to listen to Ted Ginn talk to us about fatherhood, we wanted to talk to Dr. Glover about that as well. That was on his heart to share.
The conversations can be awkward sometimes because you have, in our situation, a couple of white guys going to talk with an African-American pastor from urban Cleveland. And fatherhood, or the absence of fathers, it's not a secret that's causing some harm, not only in the inner city, but all around America and other places as well. The absence of the father in the home is a recipe for disaster.
The first institution that God created was the family. That's the first. Okay. If you want to take a look at the first couple, okay, Adam, Eve, okay. And you keep reading scripture, it says, and you fathers, tell your children, train them well. Hit the father on the head. This is, if you're going to have a part in bringing a person into the world, then you take the initiative of making sure that child gets trained. So that child can make a step higher than you made. All right? So that's where the ethics, okay, and the commandments come into it. Okay? Very, very important. All right? So unless we can stop it, okay, we won't ever catch up. So my point is, when God holds the Father, okay, holds him to be in charge of the teachings for that household. That's where it starts. And you fathers, he said. He didn't say you mothers. Whose ethics are you going to listen to? Okay? And whose commandments are you going to follow? All right? So that's how we started, in class, working with people. The more that I live, the longer I live, the more I study, okay? America's real war is what? People working with each other. This is a great book. It's one of my studies by a rabbi who is a Christian Jew. And he says pointedly, okay, that the idea that America has to face is, am I really my brother's keeper or my brother's brother?
I know there's some young people in your church today that you and church leadership are helping make a way for. Can you talk to us about those young people and some of the things that they're doing, or some of the things all of you are doing to help them?
First of all, we have energizing classes, how to think. Okay? And how to learn to make sure that God has first place, okay, in your life, okay, and to help them to make a choice as to what they want to do in life. All right, and I used to get irritated, and I still do, when I ask a young person, what do you want to do in life? What do you want to get out of life? I just want to be happy. Happy? I said, life is not a bowl of roses. You're not made to be happy. All right? So if making $1 makes them happy, they want to say how many times I can make $1. Don't care how I can make it, as long as that emotion of being happy, okay, is compensated. Okay? That's how we started with the kids. Okay, now we have 19 kids in college currently, all right, that we help to support. All right, right, yeah, okay, and we have different projects for auxiliaries. Okay, if you will pay for the books, then we will put our money over here on tuition. That's how we do it.
What does education mean to you, and what does it mean to these kids that you're helping to support?
It's the only way to live. A fool can't make it. All right? If you want to be an honest person, okay, who has something that can be contributed to society, then you have to be prepared up here to do that. All right? I made up my mind that education was so important that I was going to join, okay, the school down there. Here's the school that I joined.
Would you read to us what that says?
Yeah. Sterling Glover as a member of the Benefactor Society, Curtis Yallop, St. Labray Indian School. My daddy was a Black River Indian. This'll blow you. That's my bus down there.
What's that bus?
School bus.
Yeah, school bus, but it says more than that.
The Glover Miracle Bus.
Who are the pictures of? Who are those kids?
The children that grew up from kindergarten all the way up to high school, okay? And I get a picture every so often, okay?
One of my most prized pictures, to take it back to pictures, is a picture I have from a few years ago of Dr. Glover with RJ at Christmas in America. And it sits at our house, and RJ, he's learning now in the younger grade stories of Martin Luther King and stuff. He told his teacher last year in school he knows one of Martin Luther King's buddies, as he put it, which was very, very cool, I thought. But the quote I remember Dr. Glover saying, we've said it on the public square a number of times. You've heard Dr. Glover say it, the unmanaged strangeness of God. Mm. The ability for God to be in control. That's something I'll reflect on and think about.
Well, again, I just think of Dr. Glover. Every time we see him, even that day, he's just singing.
He's humming those hymns.
Yep. I will sing to the Lord as long as I live. I will sing praise to my God while I have being.
It appears that the older you get, the more freedom you have to say. People, by the way, he just says that because, yeah, okay, fine, all right, okay. But people looking for leadership, if you can't give it to them, okay, out of the remarkable passages in Scripture, okay, then you can't serve this present age, our calling to fulfill. So it says in the hymn.
To serve this present age, my calling to fulfill, to serve these present age. My calling to fulfill. Oh, may it all my power engage to do my master's will.
You've been listening to our tribute to our dear late friend, Dr. Sterling Glover. And now, before we end this broadcast, Dave, you wanted to share one more story about our dear friend.
I remember the last time I spoke with Dr. Glover. He was in a hospice care situation, but you would never know it. He was sitting straight up in his bed. He had a glow about him. One of his sons said to me, he's like a man waiting for the train to arrive. And I remember we talked, we prayed together. I had a chance to tell him how deeply we all loved him. And as I turned to leave, he said, Dave. I turned around and he pointed that finger at me. He said, this year, Christmas in America, I'll be there. I knew in an instant that he would be there whether he was physically in the room or not. I knew he'd be watching. He was one of the dearest advocates for Christmas in America from a theological and historical perspective long before anybody else saw the vision. And I'll never forget that look on his face with that finger. I'll be there.
The Public Square is a broadcast service of the American Policy Roundtable.